Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulmilitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Anapeta Apeta Krityam Rapayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tan Maitaya Tadavo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptascha Kamari Tarangamadye Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Brinde Namaste Charanada Vindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, we're going to begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Pada Stotar Sri Srimad Abhayacharya Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Pavishta Om Vishnu Pada Stotar Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, under our exalted Upana Guru Varga, unto all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. Okay, so nice little crowd here today. We're going to continue hearing excerpts from the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat compiled into the book Nityananda Caritamrta by the disciples of Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. Beautiful book, very nicely done. Yesterday we heard about his childhood pastimes, and we heard a very significant introduction to the conception of Nityananda as Adi Guru and our absolute dependency on him for our development in bhakti, and especially for entrance into Vrindavan, and even entrance into the service of the gopis. Without Nityananda's grace, Srimati Radhika will not accept us. Wow. So, and we discussed that a little bit. And we heard many beautiful things about his childhood. Now we're going to hear about his traveling to the holy places. This is quite interesting. And once again, because he's guru, right, he is setting the example, right? Yad yada charati shrestashtaterevetaro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokastamanuvartate. Whatever a great person does, common people follow. We're certainly common people, and he's certainly great, the greatest. He's doing this beautiful parikrama, and our Guru Varga have all done that, right? At one time or another. Although all the holy places are in Vrindavan, right, or in Navadvip, they're all contained there. These are the kings of all tirthas, the emperor. Actually, more than a king of the tirthas, there's a story about in Vrindavan how Pushkar, right, Tirtharaj, right, came to Krishna and complained that, that at a certain time of year, all the holy places are supposed to come and worship him, right? But Vrindavan didn't. And Vrindavan is not a very big place, in many minds, not even very famous at different times throughout history. And he said, why not? I thought you gave me the title Tirtharaj, right? And he said, yes, you are the king of all the tirthas, but Vrindavan is my home. And so it is indeed the topmost of all places. Nevertheless, going to the holy places especially when you know the history of these places and especially when you know who's been there. For instance, when we were living in Bangalore, we would have occasion to go here and there. Even Bangalore, although it was founded as a city relatively recently, in the modern sense. There's some stories about 500-600 years ago. Of course, it had always been inhabited. But just south of there is Mysore and the path of the Kaveri River. And there's many, many pastimes there. Lord Ram was there, Mahaprabhu was there, many, many beautiful places. We'd go to Tirupati, where again Mahaprabhu had gone. Different great personalities, saints and sages had been there. All throughout South India you can go and see many wonderful places. And if you can connect them with the pastimes of our Guru Vargas, and not just in our Sampradaya, but the Ramanuja Sampradaya, the Sri Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya, the dust of the lotus feet of these great personalities is all over South India. And so it's certainly worthy to go and hear the pastimes. So Nityananda did that. So up till now we heard about his childhood, and they're very busy in reenacting all the pastimes of Krishna, Ram, different incarnations, wonderful pastimes, he and his friends. So astonishing, so detailed, so much depth of mood that the villagers asked him, how do you know all these things? They're just young boys. How do you know all these details? Have you read the scriptures? You know all this? How do these boys know all these lines? And he just smiled and said, oh, well, these are all my pastimes. Mm-hmm. And nobody could understand that because Yogamaya covers them all. And they're just immersed in human-like Leela, as Mahaprabhu was. So, Lord Nityananda enjoyed his pastimes at the house of Hadai Pandit for some time. Then he decided to leave home. However, from fear of separation, his mother and father were unable to allow him to leave. If his mother, Padmavati, did not see him for a moment, she felt this as more than a juga. His father felt the same. Remember hearing about, even when Krishna goes out with Baladev to cowherd, his parents are following him all along the path out of the village, and he has to coax them and cajole them and say, we'll be back in a few hours. Now you go home, do your duties. We'll be back. But it was, difficult for them. And so Hadai Pandit and Padmavati, that same way. Whether he went to the field for farming or to the temple or to the market or anywhere else, Hadai Pandit repeatedly looked back at Lord Nityananda so that he might not leave home. Right? So this is a very high stage of prema where you're fearful and experiencing a kind of separation even in the presence of the beloved personality. Even in this Vatsalya, this prema can reach so high. Right? So, Hadai Pandit embraced Lord Nityananda again and again, and the Lord's butter-soft body merged in his father's. Hadai went everywhere with Lord Nityananda. Hadai Pandit's life and soul was Lord Nityananda, and Lord Nityananda's body was Hadai Pandit's. Lord Nityananda is the indwelling supersoul of everyone. Knowing all this, he tried to give pleasure to his Father. This is the Lord's nature, to reciprocate the love of his devotees. In fact, it's described, Gurudev gives very beautiful explanations in his purports in Gopi Geet, that Krishna's Atmaram and Aptikam means that he's self-satisfied. He's satisfied in himself completely. And whatever he desires is fulfilled. But when his devotees have the desire to serve him, it awakens his desire to be with them even then. Oh, I want to be with them. And he wants to taste their love. So it's apparently two contradictory qualities, right? But this is the power of love, that the love in the heart of the devotee will attract and control the Lord. And Nityananda can't leave home, so he's got to create a situation. And Yogamaya will help in that. One day, by providence, what does that mean? Divine will. Who fulfills divine will? Yogamaya. One day, by providence, a very attractive sannyasi came to Hadai Pandit's house. Knowing the etiquette for receiving guests, Hadai Pandit welcomed the sannyasi and happily fed him. Lord Nityananda and his father spent the whole night discussing topics of Lord Krishna with the sannyasi. He's about 12 at this point. And just like Vishwarup, his expansion, the elder brother Mahaprabhu in the house of Yashoda and Nanda, was so learned and so such an excellent speaker. There were many pastimes when he charmed the guests. So also Nityananda in the same way. In the morning, the sannyasi was about to leave. He then spoke to Hadai Pandit. I would like to request something from you. Please tell me whatever it is you desire, replied Hadai Pandit. Oops, he made the statement. Once you say that, there's no going back. Whatever it is you desire, I'll fulfill. I wish to travel to the holy places, the sannyasi said, but I don't have a good Brahmana companion. Will you please give me your eldest son for a few days? A few days. A few days of who? The demigods, Lord Brahma. I'll take good care of him, treating him as being dearer than my own life. And at the same time, he will be able to visit all the holy places. So have no fear, and it will be for his benefit. Hearing the words of the sannyasi, pure-hearted Hadai Pandit felt intense distress. He thought, this sannyasi has begged for my very life. At the same time, if I refuse his request, I will be ruined. It is a well-known fact that in the past, many pious men became glorious by offering their lives to satisfy mendicant sannyasis. Lord Ramachandra was the life and soul of King Dasharatha. The holy sage Vishwamitra asked Dasharatha to give him his son. The Puranas say that although King Dasharatha was unable to live without Lord Ramachandra, he still offered him to the sage. Today, the same thing has happened to me. Oh, Krishna, please protect me from this dilemma. The same situation is here. So why should I not have the same mind as Dasharatha? Lakshman has now appeared in my family as Nityananda. Right, because Vishwamitra, his hermitage and the place where they were doing sacrifices, it was a very special place with all these high-class brahmanas, was being constantly attacked by demons. They would, sacrificial fire would be there, demons would fly overhead, throw down blood, bones, stool, right? Sometimes they'd come down and eat a brahmana, right? We think that in the Kali Yuga we're oppressed by the demons, right? Out there on Harinam, and they arrest you or insult you. But at least no demons are swooping down and grabbing, the Sankirtan leader and eating them right in front of everybody. It's not that bad. Can you imagine? And Dasharatha, his sons were so amazing. I mean, Ram had picked up that bow effortlessly. They knew their strength, but his parental love was so strong, he thought, oh, my boys are too young. This is too dangerous. I'll go with my whole army. Let me do it. No, I want your sons. Don't worry, I will help them. Because Vishwamitra had previously been an extraordinarily powerful Kshatriya. And he knew all the mantras and astras and things. And he was going to take them and teach them. And he says, and we'll bring them back, don't worry. And that happened. But this prem is so strong, this love is so strong, that he just can't bear the thought. Thinking like this, The Brahmin Hadai Pandit went before his wife and explained the situation to her in detail. Hearing of the dilemma from her husband, the chaste Padmavati, the mother of the universe, said, "My lord, do what you think is best. That is my opinion." Mother Jashoda didn't feel that way when Nanda Maharaj came back without Krishna. She had a different opinion. You brought back some cloth and some jewels and you left our son there and some gifts. No, what is this? She was completely distressed. But these are all expressions of love, and deep love. His anxiety, their fear. But why would the Lord do this to a devotee? Cause that separation? Well, when you read 10th canto under guidance from our acharyas, you realize that prem has two sides. It's got the meeting and the separation. And the separation is necessary to develop prem completely. Right? And so it always happens. Hadai Pandit then came before the sannyasi and, with his head bent down, offered him his son. Taking Nityananda with him, the sannyasi departed. In this way, Lord Nityananda left home. As soon as Lord Nityananda left home, Hadai Pandit fell senseless to the ground. Who could describe the lamentation and crying of Hadai Pandit? Even wood and stone melted, hearing his lamentation. Hadai became stunned due to his absorption in devotional mellows, and people began to say that he had become a madman. He did not eat any grain for 3 months. He survived only by the mercy of Lord Krishna. Right? Completely lost external sense for that time. It is natural that due to attachment, both the Lord and his servants are unable to leave one another. This is the inconceivable nature of the Lord and the Vaishnavas. Lord Kapila manifested indifference and left his widowed mother, Devahuti. Shukadev Goswami left his Vaishnava father, Srila Vyasadeva, without even looking back. Lord Chaitanya, the crest jewel among sannyasis, left home, leaving his mother, Shachi Devi, alone, and his little young wife, Vishnu Priya, maybe 13, 14 years old. From the spiritual point of view, such leaving, and here's the key point, is never actual leaving. Some intelligent persons will understand this. These are the verses, remember, of Chaitanya Bhagavat. And if you take the book with the commentary of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he will elaborate on that for us. Intelligent persons will understand this. It's part of the pastimes. All these pastimes are performed for the deliverance of the fallen souls. Hearing of such pastimes melts even stones. If a Muslim hears of such pastimes, as the lamentation of Lord Ramachandra when he lost Sita, he will certainly cry. Lord Nityananda Prabhu left home, wandering to the holy places by his own sweet will and ecstasy. The Lord first went to Vrikeshvara, and then he went to Vaidyanath. From Vaidyanath he went to Gaya, and then to Kashi, the abode of Lord Shiva, where the Ganga flows towards the north. So he's going west up the Ganga from Bengal. Right, and hearing these, Gurudev would always talk about this, that we don't like to hear stories of suffering and lamentation. But he says when he was a young boy and the dramatic troops, the actors would come and perform Ram Leela, everybody would come and seeing the pastimes of Ram's separation from Sita. Sita's being banished to the forest, right, with Valmiki. People would weep and weep, tasting the separation. But then they'd come back the next night, even more of them, to weep and weep again. And when you see people weeping like that, what do you think? Do you think, oh, I'm not going to see that play? No, you're going to want to weep also. and you're going to want to taste that. When Gurudev would go to New Braj, right, they would always put on plays. And by his mercy and blessing, the young devotees there were quite empowered, right? All these little girls and little boys, they would put on these plays, and they would be filled with these sentiments. And Gurudev would sit there and watch, completely entranced. And time to time, take his uttariya and dab his eyes, which were, wetting his face with his own tears. And you'd look at the play, and you'd look back at him, and you'd look again and look back. And you were wishing, I wish I could weep like that. I wish my heart were so soft. But his weeping did a special thing. Everybody in the audience, being in the presence of his own rays of love, their own hearts were touched and purified, and seeds of this beautiful gift were planted. Srila Prabhupada was the same way. We attended some plays put on by him at times. Extraordinary. Whatever his moods were, everybody in the audience was tasting that same thing. There's a famous picture that you see a lot. It was in Brooklyn. And there was a play being put on called The Kidnapping of Rukmini. And very famous devotees were doing the play. And Srila Prabhupada was sitting in his rocking chair. And everybody was crammed in. And behind him, and the doors looking. And you see these pictures. And you see all these devotees, right? I had a good seat. I was right there, right? And you'd go this way, that way, this way, that way. So you see some devotees looking at the play. At that moment, I was looking at the play. And then others are just looking at Srila Prabhupada. And it would be like that. And he would laugh. He would be absorbed. His eyes would be in astonishment when the fighting was going on between Rukmi and Krishna. And when Rukmini was reciting her prayer, "Please, Krishna, come," what was meant for the lion is being stolen by the jackal, and then falling down, weeping and weeping. Oh, Srila Prabhupada was so moved. Yeah. So we want to hear these pastimes, right? And the moods of separation that these devotees experience, we want to taste that. We want to taste that. We can't yet, though. We can't. Because we've never met Krishna, right? And we've never seen him. So we can't even have real purvarag yet, separation before meeting. But we can have it in relation to our gurus and great personalities whom we have met. And this is their gift to us, as Nityananda is giving that gift to his parents, Adi Guru. Our gurus can give that to us, right? By serving them, we develop deep attachment. By being in separation, we can feel lamentation, which is actually a form of connection, because you're thinking about them, right? But you should be thinking about them not by, when is he going to come back and pat me on the head and give me sweets and praise me and no. When will he come back and allow me to serve him and do this and do that, right? That's the gift of association with Guru. So, Lord Nityananda was extremely pleased to see the Ganga. He took bath and drank some water, yet this could not relieve his grief. In the month of Magh, here we are, January, the Lord took early morning bath at Prayag, where Mahaprabhu met Rupa, right? Then he went to Mathura, very close by, his former birthplace. Lord Nityananda sported in the waters of the river Jamuna at Vishram Ghat. Everybody goes to Vishram Ghat before going to Vrindavan. And Nityananda, Advaita did, Nityananda, Mahaprabhu, right? Then he went with great curiosity to see Govardhan Hill. He visited each of the 12 forests, beginning with Vrindavan. When he saw the house and courtyard of Nanda Maharaj at Gokul, he sat down and cried profusely. Now his former identity is awakening, and he's remembering his pastimes there. Now he's feeling separation for his devotees. Right? After offering his obeisance to Madan Gopal, who we know as Madan Mohan, Now, Lord Nityananda, and they would be, I guess Advaita has already discovered them. Advaita must have gone to Vrindavan before Nityananda. We heard about him going and discovering where the Madan Mohan temple is up on the hill. Down just below that hill is a spot called, what is it? Advaitavat. And that is, there was a tree there, and that's where he discovered the deity. And I guess the deity was still there. I thought that the deity was taken to Mathura, maybe off the basis to the place where he was discovered. Lord Nityananda left for Hastinapur, the abode of the Pandavas, Delhi. Seeing the Pandavas home, he began to cry. The local people, due to lack of devotion, were unable to understand the Lord's sentiments. Remembering Lord Balaram's glorious activities in Hastinapur, he called out, "Oh, Haladar, please save me," and then offered obeisance. Why Haladar? What does Haladar mean? Right? One who carries the plow. Lord Balaram went there to retrieve the kidnapped grandson of Krishna, Aniruddha. And they wouldn't give him back. Right? No, was that Aniruddha? No. Was it Aniruddha or was it Pradumya? Sama, a different kidnapping. Sama, who had kidnapped the daughter of Duryodhana, right, by Kshatriya style. And he went to get him back, and he said, well, this is a Kshatriya tradition. You should not be angry, just bring him back and all will be okay. And the Kurus were very proud by that time, having been kings for some time, and they neglected Lord Balaram's polite request. And they insulted him. And then he said, oh, is that how it's going to be? All right. And he took his plow and he threw it into the ground, and he began to drag the entire city towards the Jamuna. And he's going to dump the whole city into the Jamuna. And then they came to their senses, and immediately, with all royal fanfare, brought out the boy and the girl, and everything was okay. Right? So he's remembering that pastime. It's glorious, Vira Ras of Lord Balaram. Apparently, there's some geologic evidence of a great disturbance there that's an anomaly that they can't really figure out. How did this happen? So, Nityananda Prabhu then went to Dwarka, where he joyfully took bath in the ocean. He next went to Siddhapur, the place of Lord Kapila. Then he went to Matsya Tirtha, where he served prasad at a festival. He then visited Shiva Kanchi and neighboring Vishnu Kanchi. Oh, that's in South India. He smiled when he saw the followers of Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva quarreling with each other. Yeah, they do that in South India. They haven't reconciled the tattva there. Yeah, that part of South India is very, very beautiful. Huge temples. They're the temples that weren't destroyed. Every other temple in the north was destroyed by Muslim invaders. You don't see that history. But in the south, some of those glorious temples are still there. He also visited Kurukshetra, Pritudaka, Bindu Sarovara, Prabhas, and Sudarshana Tirtha. He then visited the exalted holy place called Tritakup. He went to Vishal, Brahmatirtha, Chakratirtha. Oh, that would be in Puri, eh? Is that the same Chakratirtha? There's one on the beach of Puri. The Lord visited Pratisrota, where the Saraswati River flows in the opposite direction. The most magnanimous Lord Nityananda then went to Naimisharanya. He next visited the city of Ayodhya, where he cried upon seeing the birthplace of Lord Ram, which was his own birthplace as well as Lakshman. From Ayodhya, he proceeded to Chandala Guhaka's kingdom, where he fell unconscious. By remembering the activities of Chandala Guhaka, he was the king of the Adivasas, the outcasts. But Lord Ram, he was Lord Ram's devotee, and Lord Ram treated him wonderfully. He first met Lord Ram when Lord Ram was leaving. That was one of the first places he stopped with him. Lord Nityananda remained in an ecstatic trance for 3 days. Seeing the forest where Lord Ramachandra had resided, he rolled on the ground in separation, because as Lakshman, once they went into seclusion, Lakshman became the full-time sevak of Sita and Ram. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating. He never ate or slept. He just watched over them and served them for the entire 13 years. So then, seeing the forest where Lord Ramachandra had resided, he rolled on the ground in separation. He then went to both the Sharayu and Kaushiki rivers and took bath. He saw the ashram of Pulastya Rishi, and next took bath in the Gomati, Gandaki, and Shona rivers. He also climbed to the top of Mahendra mountain. There he offered obeisance to Lord Parshuram. He then visited Hardwar, the source of the Ganga. The Lord took bath in the Pampa, Bhimarati, Venva, and Vipasha rivers. So I'm not familiar with all these places because I've never done this kind of pilgrimage. Some people have studied this in detail. But basically, he's gone everywhere, north, south, east, west. After seeing Kartikeya at Madurai, the most intelligent Lord Nityananda went to see Sri Shaila, the abode of Shiva and Parvati. Shiva and Parvati live on this mountain in the form of a Brahmana couple. When Lord Nityananda arrived there, Shiva and Parvati understood that their most worshipable Lord was wandering on pilgrimage as a mendicant. Most satisfied to receive such a guest, Parvati happily cooked for the Lord. They fed the Lord with loving affection, and Lord Nityananda smiled and offered them his respects. Only Lord Krishna knows about their confidential discussions. Extraordinary. There's no indication that he's with that sannyasi at this point. This seems to be that he's been traveling alone all this time. The sannyasi was an element, a pretext, right? And no one has ever said who that sannyasi was. Some people have speculated that it was Madhavendra Puri, but that doesn't make sense because he's going to meet Madhavendra Puri later as if for the first time, right? And be with him for some time. If it had been Madhavendra Puri, they never would have left each other, probably. In any case, when they did leave, one thing that we didn't mention, when he did leave, it wasn't only his father and mother that felt separation. The whole village came out and began to follow his tracks out of town to get him and bring him back. They couldn't take it. But as soon as they got outside of town a little bit, there were no more footprints. They couldn't trace anything. And they went to this side, that side, everywhere looking, and as if he'd completely vanished. They couldn't find him. So then Lord Nityananda then continued his journey going to Dravidadesh. That's very South India, like Tamil Nadu. The Lord visited Venkatanath. Oh, that's in Tirupati. Balaji, very famous deity. Kamakoshti Puri. Kanchi, that's also South India, and the river Kaveri. The river Kaveri is an ecstatic river. Mahaprabhu went there. It's very near Bangalore. One time we were looking for land because Premananda Prabhu was thinking he wanted to go to South India. So after Gurudev left, he couldn't bear to be there anymore. Everything reminded him of Gurudev, and so he wanted to go and preach in South India, which he knew Gurudev had wanted. So we were looking for land. And Giridhar Maharaj finally found some, and we purchased it. And then I went down there to erect a hut, and I stayed at this ashram that was right on the Kaveri, and they had their own ghat. And every day I'd walk down to the ghat and bathe in the Kaveri 3 times a day. It's so clean you can drink it. They don't allow any industry or anything on it. It's still incredibly pure and beautiful, the Kaveri. And it's said, there's one place I had a godbrother, he's left us now, who had an ashram, has an ashram there on the Kaveri, very near to a place, I forget the name of it, where Ganga Devi comes once a year to bathe, to purify herself from all the sins that she's accumulated from the pilgrims. So the Kaveri is a very sacred, powerful river, right? Very beautiful. So, there, that's Kaveri. There the Lord visited the sacred place of Sri Ranganath. There are many beautiful temples there. From Ramanuja had established temples there. Then he went to Harchatra, Ashaba Mountain, Madurai, another famous place. Many beautiful temples, the Shringa temples, Lakshminarayan temples, Kritamala, Tamraparni, and Uttara Jamuna rivers. He visited the ashram of Agastya Rishi in the Malay Hills. Now they're called the, Koli Hills? I have a godbrother that bought land up there. And it's very difficult to get up there. You have to take this road that has like 100 twists and turns to get up to the top of the hill. And there's many valleys and everything. And this is the place that the rishis, many like Agastya, went because the north was so like this, in the winter. Who wants to do your meditations in this, right? So down there, it's very beautiful and very isolated. And even today, in the village there up on the hill, which is very small because it's very hard to develop, it's still mostly farmers, sometimes a yogi will come. And there's this common story that my godbrother Shankarbrit told me. He went to the village and a man told him about seeing a yogi. He was a very young-looking man. And his father told him, "Oh, I saw that when I was a young boy, saw that same person." And my grandfather was with me, and he said, "Oh, he saw him when he was a young boy." They're living in that area still, because it's isolated enough. And there's wild bananas, wild mango, sandalwood, all the things that you would expect in an ancient Indian forest where you could live like that as a sage. It's still like that in parts of those Koli Hills down there. So, the residents there were all jubilant to see the Lord. The Lord stayed as a guest in their ashram and then departed in deep ecstasy for Badarikashram. Lord Nityananda stayed in seclusion for some days at the ashram of Naranarayan Rishis. He then went to the ashram of Srila Vyasadeva, who recognized that he was Lord Balaram. Srila Vyasadeva personally received Lord Nityananda as a guest, and the Lord offered his obeisance to him in the mood that he is, the original preceptor, the author of all the Vedic literatures, and what? Brahma, Narad, Vyas, third in line, right? Third in line, Veda Vyas. So the Lord then visited a Buddhist monastery where he found the residents all sitting together. The Lord asked a question, but no one replied. Becoming angry with them, the Lord kicked them in the head. They all simply smiled and ran away. Imagine that, being kicked in the head. Whoever got kicked in the head, they had to have become a Vaishnava. Lord Nityananda thus fearlessly continued his travels through the forest. He eventually arrived at Kanyakumari. After seeing goddess Durga there, he went to see the southern ocean. So he's going up and down everywhere, He's just been on the way north, then going way south. He went to see Anantapura, and thereafter he went to Panchapshara Kunda. He next visited the temple of Lord Shiva, known as Gokarna. He visited Kerala, which is the southernmost state, below Karnataka where we were, next to, if this is India, from your perception, Bangalore is, about 500 kilometers north from the tip, and in that bottom section is Kerala. On the other side is, wait, from your perspective, this side, the other state. So, he next visited the temple of Lord Shiva known as Gokarna. He visited Kerala and the various places in Trigarta. He also visited goddess Parvati, who dwells on an island near Gokarna. Yeah. I don't know if they're still in Tamil Nadu or where they are now, or Kerala. The Lord then visited near Vindhya, Prayoshni, and Tapi rivers. He went to the city of Mahishmati on the banks of the Reva River and saw Malatirtha. The Lord then passed through the holy district of Suparaka on his way to the west. In ecstasy, Nityananda Prabhu traveled in this way without fear of anyone. He had no control over his body due to ecstatic love for Krishna. Sometimes he cried, and sometimes he laughed. Who could understand his ecstatic moods? Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. So that's chapter 2. Chapter 3, maybe we'll have to start, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is the appearance day of Lord Varaha. So we will be hearing that katha. We're observing Ekadashi today, but it's enjoined you have to break the Ekadashi fast. So you have to break it on a day that normally you would follow Ekadashi principles, Vishnu Tattva appearance. But our injunction is because the next day is also Nityananda's appearance day. What you do is you hear Hari Katha in the morning about Lord Varaha, and then asking permission, then you break with grains. And then on Nityananda's day, then we will also observe Ekadashi. So that the day after, we'll hear about Lord Nityananda meeting with Sripad Madhavendra Puri. Wait a minute. The day after is Nityananda's appearance day, Saturday. I don't know what we'll hear about. We'll have to figure that out. Any rate, so we'll stop here. We'll offer our obeisance to our Guru Varga, to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, all the assembled Guru Varga, all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.